Shalom, hola, ciao ladies and jellyfish to the top 10 best episodes of Bojack Horseman. As you guessed from the title, this is the top 10 best episodes of Bojack. A real shocker, I know. Another shocker is that these are actually my opinions, so take them with a grain of salt, pepper, whatever. With that out of the way, let's just get into this. Starting off our list is a Showstopper from Season 5. We start off the episode with an amazing custom intro and theme song, cutting out the official theme song altogether. You gotta respect the extra minute of animation they had to make for that. As for the actual episode, it gets much better by the end. Before that, the form of storytelling through Bojack's perspective is interesting, the scenes with Charlotte's husband are funny, the drug hiding places are clever, and I love Rami Malek's character, but the real meat of the episode come from the end, with the song, which is very beautiful foreshadowing for the view from halfway down, which let's just say is also here on this list. That climax though is also beautiful. Being told from a semi-non-linear way was a great way to do it in my opinion, and having the fifth, and let's be honest, last good F-bomb in the show was a great way to signify the end of Gina and Bojack's relationship going forward. And while that giant balloon of Bojack at the end may be a metaphor for many things, I'm not gonna amount it to much and overanalyze it like tons of theories everywhere, but my 2 cents on it is that the balloon represents Bojack's internal struggle between trying to be happy and being arrogant. And yeah, that outro music is so simple yet so beautiful. Just a great episode that totally didn't make me simp for Gina. Come on guys, don't say it. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I absolutely adore this episode. While it isn't super consistent all the way through in terms of comedy and plot, the tone is pretty consistent throughout the whole thing, and we get a lot of interesting moments throughout, featuring most of little animations in Bojack's head as he talks to himself. It's a pretty relatable thing that they show to further help us connect to Bojack's inner struggles and doubts of himself. Will Arnett's performance here is awesome, by the way, definitely one of the best from the whole show. As a person who likes Bojack the most out of the main cast of characters, this episode was really fun for me because it was a heavily Bojack-surrounded episode, while also featuring literally every other character in small scenes. This episode was also nominated for 2 Emmys, although it didn't win either, and don't worry, we got way more awarded episodes coming up. But anyway, the fact that the Emmys thought this episode was that special definitely says a lot about it. And oh yeah, that ending is awesome.
So take me down easy.
Face of Depression might not be an obvious pick for this list, but in my opinion stands out in a way not a lot of other episodes do. This episode was the first episode in the last half of the season 6 episodes, and not the last of those 6 episodes on this list, by the way. We start off the episode with an amazing intro made to illustrate Bojack's descent into hating himself and becoming depressed. And while it is very touching, the intro ends with the most hilarious honeydew gag, probably the funniest in the whole show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. And can I just say that I love the season 6 theme song? The transitions are so beautiful and it's definitely the best visuals out of the 6 theme songs. The episode itself is also awesome, taking us to various cities around America where we see the depression among different characters, with Bojack interacting with each one. Oh, and Mr. Peanut Butter finally got his crossover! While I'm not crazy about shoehorning Joey Pogo into this again, the best scenes in the episode are clearly the depression circle where Bojack meets up with his ex-horsing around cast member, Sharona, who ends up revealing the fact that Bojack had dyed his hair for 20 years, which this episode is also special for pointing out. I also love the coffee shop scenes in particular, they're super wholesome for no reason at all. And of course, the Diane arc is finally resolved here with the antidepressant scene. Oh yeah, and Take Me Down Easy is a fantastic ending song, but oh god, I can't describe how much I wince when I see Ruthie's spikes poke through her clothes. Wince. You don't know what wincing is? Whatever, just revel in the subtle complexities of Bojack Horseman. After all, you do need an IQ of 400 to understand.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, everything that...
Before we go any further, I feel like I have to give some love to Kristen Shaw, who even got nominated for an Emmy for playing Sarah Lynn here. I think the episode stays pretty consistent in this one, unlike some of these where only the beginning and end are really interesting, and the middle can dry out. This episode stays pretty great throughout. From the start of the episode, we see how hard it is for Sarah Lynn to be happy considering the paparazzi taking pictures of her wherever she is, even from the privacy of her own home. The plot of the episode is about the bender that Bojack and Sarah Lynn partake in and the many places they go, like to Penny's college by accident and scarring Penny again after the events of Escape from LA, or the hilarious scene at Anna's house with Bojack blacking out over and over, or the speech Bojack gives at the AA meeting. But in my opinion, the best scene is at the very end, where Bojack and Sarah Lynn go to the planet planetarium with narration from the awesome Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I'm a huge fan of, by the way. Great book, Neil. As Sarah Lynn says, I want to be an architect before she dies in a beautiful scene that might just be the best scene in the whole show. In a way, this beautifully silhouetted scene illustrates their very complex relationship, as they are the only people who understand each other's struggles. And with complete writing genius, Bojack's brand heroine ends up killing her due to an overdose, which was first seen in the appropriately named Bojack Kills. Basically, Bojack was responsible for the death of Sarah Lynn, and this episode is genius. Is that too much, man? This episode is a personal guilty pleasure, because no matter how some people might not think that it's that amazing, I can always appreciate the level of brilliance that went into writing this episode. From the beginning, starting where we left off with Bojack after the end of season 3, we see Bojack running away from his old life in his car. We see a lot of emotion induced from the beautiful A Horse With No Name playing, and not a word of dialogue. We can see Bojack has become desperate and unguided, like in the short clip of him at the gas station. But the real meat of the episode is after the theme song, as he goes to an abandoned house in Michigan where his mom and grandparents used to live. We see probably my favorite Bojack character of all time, Eddie, who really made me look at flies in a different way. But in all seriousness, this episode, much like Zuko Alone from Avatar, which I literally reviewed in a very new video, cuts often from flashbacks to the present day, but this is even more well done than Avatar in my opinion, as some scenes take place in the exact same location with characters from both sides interacting, like the scene of Beatrice and her mom at the piano with Eddie and Bojack. There are some funny jokes like Tamara and Tamara, but this episode takes the more bittersweet road, with hints to Beatrice's past, which will later be reinforced in an episode we'll get to later, Eddie's wife's death, and just shows us a lot in terms of Bojack's development and his family in general. There are so many scenes I love, like when Bojack saves Eddie in a heartbreaking scene, or when Beatrice sees her mom with the stitches, that made this episode one of my absolute favorite episodes of Bojack that never fails to make me laugh, make me cry, and keep me entertained, all in 22 minutes.
Kyle and the kids.
You may have noticed that, if the video didn't get claimed, the song you just heard was the Kyle and the Kids theme song, which replaces the Bojack theme song in this episode. That is because this is not a Bojack-centered episode. This episode focuses on Charlotte's family, hence why we're not in LA anymore, rather New Mexico. This episode was, in my opinion, the first episode that really shifted the show from a decent comedy to a fantastic drama. While there are some episodes like The Telescope or some other season 2 episodes that might come to mind, this was the turning point for Bojack's character and the most emotional point of the show since it began. In the span of 22 minutes that make up this episode, we learn a tremendous amount about Penny, Charlotte, and even minor characters like Pete Repeat, who might be the best character to ever exist. And I think this might be one of the best examples in the show, and animation in general, in terms of showing us how to establish a character from scratch in such a short time span. After an episode worth of Bojack being irresponsible and stupid, we get that amazing climax that is one of the best moments in the whole series. It starts off with the balloon leading Charlotte to the boat, the balloon visually representing Bojack's recklessness. And as we all know, we get that amazing F-bomb that signified the end of the relationship between Charlotte and Bojack, and also the stamp that was left on Bojack's mind as one of his regrets for what he did to Penny. And yes, that boat montage at the end is awesome, finally playing the full Bojack theme to show us that he's returning to his crappy life in LA once again. Just a great episode that shows how powerful show don't tell can be for establishing a character and telling a richer story. Well, here it is, the silent episode. Look, I have a personal love for silent films, Chaplin and all that, and while this is definitely not that, the lack of dialogue for the majority of the episode really makes this one in particular stand out among many others in its season. I personally think this one is one of the most beautiful sounding episodes of the show, and ironically, many agree with me as the episode was nominated for a Motion Picture Sound Editors Award for sound editing. Didn't win it unfortunately, but I think it's pretty ironic and funny how this episode got nominated for a sound editing award. The story itself is also really heartwarming, as we see Bojack care for a seahorse who's lost his family. It's one of the few episodes to touch on Bojack's lack of children or a real family, and I think if any episode was going to help us to connect as much as possible with this character and this concept, it would be the silent episode. And while we're on the topic of silent films and Chaplin, this episode weirdly reminded me of Charlie Chaplin's movie The Kid, which has a pretty similar premise, and let's just say they were both amazing in their own rights. But hands down, my favorite part of the episode is the ending, where Bojack finally finds finds the guts to apologize to Kelsey, but the water smudges the writing from his letter. Until it's revealed Bojack could have talked the whole time in a very hilarious clip that I really recommend you watch after this. And we hear the song Sea of Dreams, which is now one of my favorite songs ever and perfectly sums up the mood of the episode. Just a masterclass of storytelling, to be honest. Ah yes, this episode, everyone's darkest episode that always comes to mind. While that is true, I don't think everyone truly takes into account how deep this episode is. Like many episodes here, it was nominated for an award, this time for a Gold Derby Award, and it didn't win, although it was also nominated for a Primetime Emmy. Anyway, this episode is nothing short of amazing. There's so many hidden meanings and Easter eggs everywhere, from the paintings on the walls, the foods the characters eat, to the lyrics of the songs. If you want to see all of the hidden meanings in this episode, I'll leave a link to a great video in the description that breaks it down by the awesome Johnny Tucellos. I won't go too deep into it, but know that there's probably a lot you didn't know about it, just like me. As for the main plot of the episode, it is amazingly complex and dark. Bojack is almost drowned in his pool, and we go into a dreamlike world with all the characters who have died in the episodes prior, from Beatrice, Herb, to Sarah Lynn. Personally, these are my favorite set of characters if we're talking unironically, especially Herb or Secretariat, so it was a blast to see these characters back together. They all talk about their lives, their deaths, and their regrets. Meanwhile, a black tar keeps dripping on Bojack, which is a callback to the symbol from season 1. The episode really gets juicy during the show, commemorating Bojack. This sequence gives us a lot more awesome Easter eggs, like Sarah Lynn singing Don't Stop Dancing, being a callback to the Showstopper, which we've touched on, or Beatrice or Crackerjack performing I Will Always Think of You from Sugarman Place, which we also touched on. But man, the best part of the episode has to be Secretariat's speech on the view from halfway down, which hits me harder the more I listen to it. It describes the terrible feeling of regret when you see the view from halfway down when you jump off a bridge. It is such a beautiful poem, and the door coming closer and closer symbolizes the water approaching Secretariat as he jumped. At the end, as Bojack talks to Diane, and the credits are a flat line, but eventually give a heartbeat, we are hit with a spark of bittersweet hope for Bojack to not drown and stay alive. Overall, this episode is fantastic, and while it's not number 1 on this list due to sheer brilliance of some other episodes, it's definitely a masterpiece regardless. Free Churro, the simplest yet most fascinating episode of the whole show. Free Churro, written by Raphael Bob Waxberg, is a prime example of how you can make an amazing episode with only one character and a script of 90% dialogue, which makes it really hard to show not tell. This episode goes against all the cliches and breaks all the rules, and for some reason it pulls it off incredibly well. Will Arnett's performance alone was incredible and proves how versatile and powerful of a voice actor he can be. His inflections and passion are probably the best in the entire show, and he is the only voice actor in this episode, both for Bojack and Butterscotch Horseman. Speaking of Butterscotch, that intro with Butterscotch talking to Bojack in the car really gives us an insight to the character of Butterscotch, probably one of the best examples of this in the series. There are tons of awesome parts to the episode, like the churro lines, the line about the coffee cup, which I love so much because it describes pretty much every video essay on YouTube, and all the emotional scenes of Bojack talking about Beatrice's hatred are really emphasized by Arnett's performance. And of course, that ending line was genius and really funny, and while I'm not a fan of the organ credits music, the ending was admittedly pretty funny. Predominantly, it's an amazing episode that breaks all the rules in all their best ways. If I had to sum it up in 10 words or less, trademark, this episode ended and everything is worse now. With number 2 out of the way, before we get to the number 1 best episode, here are some honorable mentions. Downer ending. Nice while it lasted. It's You. Ruthie. The Dog Days Are Over. The Telescope. Yup, I do think the absolute best episode of Bojack Horseman is Time Zero. From the get-go, this episode details the life story of one of the deepest characters who's been built up for so many seasons at this point, Beatrice Horseman. We get a detailed look from the start of Beatrice's life from a non-linear and non-vivid point of view, like the way the latter twists in her childhood, or why different characters are featured in different flashbacks, or why most of the background characters are faceless. This interesting and rapid form of telling the story really made it more interesting in my opinion, rather than being told chronologically. Same could go for a film like Pulp Fiction or The Prestige. Anyway, all the events that happened to Beatrice in this episode show us how trauma can create a ripple effect throughout many generations, and affect the lives of many people like Bojack himself. For instance, after Beatrice lost her brother and eventually her mother, and then her doll, which was her real last love, she listens to her mother's advice from Old Sugarman Place, and never loved someone as much as Honey loved Crackerjack. This leads to her hating Bojack and always resenting him throughout his childhood, despite not getting an abortion earlier because of her her doll burning, which ends up with her regretting Bojack and later forcing Henrietta to get an abortion, which ruined her and Hollyhock's lives as well. Another example could be how she loved Butterscotch because loving him would go against the wishes of her father, who, despite being a soft-voiced antagonist here, Beatrice hated and never agreed with. Beatrice's backwards mindset ultimately leads to her making Hollyhock overdose on the weight loss pills because that's what her father would have done, which led to the beginning of this episode. The way these events coincide is amazingly told, and it is the reason I love it so much. There's so many scenes I love here, from the burning of the doll scene, which always gives me massive goosebumps, to the fact that Henrietta's face is scribbled, which in my opinion is because Beatrice can't forget about her, so to erase that person from her mind, she scribbles it out, just like how we scribble something if we can't erase it from somewhere. And of course, we can't talk about this episode without mentioning the ending scene, which is so amazing and heartbreaking, and the final time we can see Beatrice in the present day. And I can't talk about this episode without mentioning the Emmy nomination that Wendy Malick, the voice actor for Beatrice, received. The only flaw here is that she lost. Overall, Time's Arrow is the peak of Bojack in my opinion, and proved how amazing an animated series, especially an adult animation show, could be. With all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoyed my top 10 Bojack Horseman episodes list. If you enjoyed, please be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on, like the video to support, and don't forget about that share button. It gets lonely down there. Help him out. Be sure to leave your top 10 best episodes in the comments below, and follow me on Twitter at Mr. A.S.K, and join the Discord server to chat with me and a lot of other members about Bojack and many other things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you beautiful ladies and jellyfish next time. Ciao!
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show. Bojack the Horseman.